As the world attention obviously is focused on the war in Iran, I would like to draw your attention to another arena, and this is Syria. In the last 24 hours, there have been some protests in Syria, particularly in the area of Damascus. The protesters affiliated with pro-Palestinians as well as Salafi jihadi Sunni groups have been attacking the Emirati embassy in Syria, the US embassy in Syria. There has been protest also against the Jordanian kingdom, the Hashemite kingdom, and the king of Jordan. And this story is very interesting for a couple of reasons. First, the direct background for the protest, particularly targeting the Emirati embassy in Syria, has to do apparently with the trial of a Sunni jihadi leader, Syrian one, Issam el-Bidawi. He was the leader of one of the Islamic Sunni jihadi groups operating in Syria during the war against Assad regime. That group was known by the name of the Army of Islam. The Army of Islam is coming from the hub of Sunni Salafi jihadi groups, exactly like many other groups that operated in Syria, and the most well-known one is the one that was known by the name of Hayat Tahrir al-Sham. That group is particularly interesting because the leader of that group was a person called Abu Muhammad al-Julani, which is today known in the world as Ahmad al-Shara, the Syrian president. In fact, there has been a rivalry between al-Julani groups back then and al-Baydawi group during the war against the Assad regime, even though they both came from the same camp, the Salafi jihadi camp, that one that was opposing Assad. Bidawi was arrested by the United Arab Emirates about a year ago because he was being charged as being member of Al-Qaeda group, and his trial was concluded just the other day, and he's waiting his verdict in the end of the month. So the protesters in Syria, obviously some of them are coming from the ranks of the previously Army of Islam, of which al-Bidawi was the leader of. They are demanding his release. The interesting thing is that this is happening exactly the same time Shara, the president of Syria, is concluding a visit to Europe, during which he met with the leaders of Germany and the United Kingdom, part, of course, of the whole rehabilitation and legitimacy that he gained internationally. Now, the whole story of those protests right now in Syria, to a large extent, are connecting to a big question that basically bothers intelligence agencies in the region and commentators and observers regarding the new rule in Syria. And the question is whether this new rule in Syria, that is actually coming from the hub of the Sunni Salafi jihadi camp, Al-Qaeda, some coming even from ISIS, the offspring of Al-Qaeda, whether this new regime in Syria that is now changed its custom and now wears suit and ties has really changed its skin, because Shara is obviously conveying a message of pragmatism and moderation. He time and again emphasized that Syria does not want to be engaged in any kind of violence. He emphasizes the fact that Syria needs, above any other thing, rehabilitation. And in that regard, by the way, United Arab Emirates is one of the major states expected to help in the rehabilitation of Syria. So this whole episode of the protest in Damascus in the last couple of days is kind of like putting a Shara in a very embarrassing, challenging situation, as it's kind of like further strengthening the voices of those who argue that Shara and his rule in Syria are basically just a wolf disguised in a sheep clothing. On the other hand, there are those who are arguing that Shara is genuinely looking for stabilization and pragmatism. And so right there you see the tension between those two voices regarding the new rule in Syria. One thing is very clear, Shara needs to swiftly make sure that those protests will not further expand. One of the major reasons is because within the new government in Syria, there are those circles who basically went a long way with Shara since the early days of the war against Assad, when Shara was back then part of Al-Qaeda. There are today those within the new administration in Syria, people that were loyal to Shara and went with him all the way, and those people, or at least some of those people, are not happy with the transformation of Shara skins, or seemingly what is seemed to be like transformation of a Shara skin. So it's very clear that Shara will need very quickly to make clear who is the boss. The question is, of course, how is it going to do that? We should follow very closely to see how things will evolve in Syria in the next couple of days. I'm Avi Melamed, founder of Inside the Middle East ITME Institute. Thank you for watching.